Hey there, friends. Welcome to Just the Gems. Let me ask you a question. What do you need to really enjoy a JRPG? A story you'll remember for years to come, awesome characters, and gameplay that serves to heighten the experience. But that's probably asking for too much, right? Usually one of those things gets left behind in favor of the others. It's just one of the facts of life. Reminds me of that TV show, The Wonder Years. That's the case with today's review, Astria Ascending. An engaging and complex battle system that's bogged down by half-baked storytelling and characters that don't feel all there. Where's my beard balm? Honey, have you seen my beard balm? Astria Ascending comes to us from Artisan Studios, and it's got some pretty impressive names behind it. The writer, Kazushige Nojima, worked on several Final Fantasies. Art was contributed by Akihiko Yoshida of Nier Automata and Bravely Default. And the composer, Hitoshi Sakamoto, needs no introduction, so I won't introduce him. It started life as an iOS RPG back in 2015, but it didn't really make much of a splash. However, it got a second chance thanks to publisher Dear Villagers. Okay, with the history out of the way, let's talk about the game. And what better way to start than with the presentation? I'm tempted to chalk its side-scrolling presentation up to its origins as a mobile RPG, but that's probably not fair. It's a perfectly valid design choice, honestly, and other RPGs have pulled it off. Child of Light is pretty well liked, and it was similarly kind of a 2D platformer. That being said, I'm not the biggest fan of the style. It reminds me too much of a Metroidvania, but one without the sorts of gameplay elements that make that genre appealing. Also, I get lost all the time, and that happens to me enough in the real world, so. Speaking of the style, the art is a little difficult for me to stomach. Characters are 3D models, but they're intentionally designed to look like cheap Flash animated characters from 2006, albeit with way more detail. The desire by the devs to have the characters always cheating out towards the camera also creates some weird body horror style walking animations that just really wig me out. Not cool. Ugh. Seriously, look at that. Big step, little baby step. Big step, little baby step. I can't with that. Your hips. The tension on your hips alone is just, ugh. The world feels pretty lively, so it's a shame your character is doomed to only ever experience one two-dimensional plane of it. Talking to characters in the world involves sort of standing in front of them, facing away from them, which just feels awkward and uncomfortable. I mean, imagine trying to have a conversation like this. Oh, hey, babe, yeah. So anyway, like I was saying, I was finally able to pre-order the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Collector's Edition, but it was a giant pain in the butt, and Nintendo really ought to know by now that their website cannot handle that sort of traffic. It's ridiculous. It happens every time, and... Hun? Can you... It's kind of hard to talk to you when you're... Is this your way of telling me you want a divorce? You run around, jump onto platforms, sometimes you shoot a magic ring at things in some sort of light puzzle solving, and you swing your sword imperceptibly fast at floating blue orbs to try to gain the advantage when starting a battle. Notice I say try to gain the advantage. Swinging your sword and hitting the enemy does not guarantee that you will get a preemptive strike. It only opens the possibility that you might. So, good luck. But the battles, though, the battles are where Astria Ascending really shines. Battles are turn-based, with characters taking turns based on their speed. There's no meter or turn order indicator, which is honestly kind of a bummer. Feels sort of old school in a way that I'm not crazy about. But it won't be a big deal for most people. You have your basic attacks, your magic spells, your techniques. Any Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest fan will be able to step into this like an old pair of shoes. Not old in like a gross way, but just, comfortable. One element borrowed from some more recent games like Bravely Default and Octopath Traveler is the focus system. Hitting enemy weaknesses adds points to your focus meter. Hit something that your enemy's strong against, however, and your focus points go down. You use your focus points not to increase your number of turns, but to up the strength of your attacks. So one focus point will increase it by 50%, two by 100%, etc. It's a pretty rewarding spin on that sort of system, borrowing a little bit from what's worked before and tweaking it enough to call it its own. Similarly to Final Fantasy X and Persona 5 and others, of course, you have the ability to switch party members out mid-battle. So on a character's turn, you can easily send them to the bench and pull in somebody better suited to the challenge. So as you've probably been able to pick up from watching the clips and hearing what I've had to say so far, nothing here is incredibly unique, but it does bring together several ideas from other games and it integrates them all together well. If I was grading Astria Ascending on the battle system, it would get a B. It would be a B tier game, which is not bad. Not bad. Now, from what I understand, Astria Ascending runs about 25 hours, unless you're a massive completionist going for every side quest. From what I understand, I hear you sneering back at me. Does that mean you didn't finish it? The answer to your frankly kind of judgy question is no, I didn't finish it. I'll go a bit more into why as we progress here, but suffice to say, yeah, I didn't make it to the end. Having said all that, for a game of its relative short length, it has some goofily complicated systems. There's a class system, for example, that assigns each character a choice of 3 classes, with one being your main class, another being your sub-job, and the third being your support job. So you unlock each of these as you progress the story, but choosing the order that you assign the jobs is actually very important, as the sub-job and the support job versions of each class will lock you out of certain different abilities. Strengthening your abilities happens on a Final Fantasy X style sphere grid, with points that you earn in battle being used to unlock abilities and stat increases. There's sub-quests that you can go on for various townspeople. There's a card-based minigame. This game checks all of the standard JRPG boxes, and it doesn't do a terrible job with any of them. It's actually pretty decent all around from a gameplay perspective. So why didn't I finish the game? Partially, it's the grind. I haven't encountered such an unforgiving JRPG in years. Regular battles will wipe you out if you're not careful. And this doesn't have any sort of modern try again option when you lose. It's straight back to your last save. But beyond the grind, which is small in the grand scheme of things, my issue lies with the story. In a world where harmony is constantly at risk of being destroyed, 8 heroes are chosen from among the various races to come together and bring peace. These heroes are called demigods, and their job is to defeat the noise. And after a period of 3 years of fighting this fight, they get to die for their troubles. Your main character, or at least the character you start off controlling anyway, is Ulan, and she's the captain of the 7 other heroes that make up the 333rd demigods. We join them in the story when they're down to just 3 months remaining before their ascension, i.e. when they don't get killed. They're already a well-established team at this point, and we get to know them a bit better as the story progresses. Now, one thing I will say in its favor is the plot does try to tackle some fairly heavy issues like racism and extremism, but at the end of the day, no matter how interesting the plot might be, it's really the characters that make or break a story. And I don't care about these characters. That sounds harsh, but I don't feel bad for saying it because they're make-believe people and I can't hurt their feelings. So the biggest problem is twofold: the writing and the performances.
Stick your beak back into your own business.
Hey, don't be like that. Just 3 more months till we die after all.
So none of the actors deliver what I'd call a standout performance, and there are some glaring inconsistencies that suggest to me that the voice direction wasn't too solid either. Even things as simple as the pronunciation of various common terms found in the game world are completely different between two characters. Not for any sort of plot-related reason, but clearly because the actors were given a sheet of paper with lines full of weird words and they weren't told how those words should be said.
Walkways are meant for walking, Eco, not working.
Echo, what a relief!
Pesca! Spring!
Either way, let's head to Pesca Spring.
Honestly, for me, there isn't much more to be said. If the story and the characters don't interest me, I'm not going to keep playing. I definitely gave the game a fair shot, around 10 hours or so, and it just didn't reach the level of storytelling necessary to hook me. I know some other reviewers commented on how starting out with a full team that's already gotten to know each other makes it difficult for us as the players to get to know them, and I do think that there's wisdom in that. At best, we can infer information about the relationships. At worst, we're just completely in the dark. So at the end of the day, taking all these things into consideration, the question I have to ask is Astria Ascending a gem? No, it's not. The best battle system in the world couldn't save a game with a subpar plot and boring characters. So I guess we're going to be saying goodbye to Astria Ascending. I want to thank you for watching, ask you to please like the video, please subscribe, and until next time, bye.